Hello everyone, I'm Bramsh Kamar Chandio, a PhD candidate in the Department of Intelligent System Engineering at Indiana University Bloomington. Today, Shreyas and I are going to talk about deep learning based registration. Given two images, moving and static, registration method tries to find the transformation that will align moving image with the static image, such that the moved image and the static image will overlap with each other. Traditional image registration has three main components: transformation model that specifies all changes that may be applied to the moving image, which could include rigid, affine, or non-rigid. A similarity measure or a cost function, such as sum of squared differences, cross-correlation, mutual information, that evaluates differences or dissimilarities between moving and static image. To find an optimal registration, the similarity measure has to be optimized. We need optimization method such as gradient descent or Powell's method or etc. Let's look at the differences between traditional image registration and deep learning based registration. Traditional image registration methods optimize an objective function for each pair of images, which could be time consuming for large datasets or when we want rich deformations. On the other hand, deep learning based methods formulate registration as a function that maps an input image pair to a deformation field that aligns these images. No need to optimize an objective function at prediction because it computes a deformation field by directly evaluating the function that it learned during training. This is very fast and also allows for rich deformations. In this session, we'll focus on VoxelMorph, a learning framework for deformable medical image registration. This paper was published in 2019 by Goha et al. VoxelMorph replaces pair-specific optimization of the deformation field by global optimization of the shared parameters. Once the global function is estimated, a field can be produced by evaluating the function on a given volume pair. Let's look at the overview and architecture of VoxelMorph. Given image, moving image M, and fixed or static image, here represented with F. F and M are assumed to be affinely aligned as a pre-processing step, so the only source of misalignment is nonlinear. VoxelMorph models a function g, theta here, using a convolutional neural networks where theta is the neural network parameters, the kernels of the convolutional layer. Network takes F and M as input and computes phi, registration field, using a set of parameters theta. It warps M with phi so that we get this moving image using a special transformation function, enabling evaluation of similarity of moved and the fixed one. During the test time, registration field is obtained by evaluating the function learned during training. Here, LSIM is the similarity measure between two images, which could be cross-correlation or mutual information. And here, LSmooth imposes regularization. The parameterization of G function is based on convolutional neural network architecture similar to U-Net, which consists of encoders and decoders sections with skip connections. This has been already covered by Jongsung in details, so I'll just briefly go through it. Here, each rectangular represents 3D volume generated from preceding volume using 3D convolutional layer. Decoder uses 32 filter convolution, each followed by an upsampling layer to bring volume back to the full convolution resolution. Here, 3D convolution in both encoder and decoder stages uses a kernel size of 3 with a stride of 2. Each convolution is followed by leaky ReLU layer with a parameter of 0.2. They further propose to use some auxiliary information such as the anatomical segmentations that were available at training time for subset of the data to learn network parameters and improve registration. Here are some results from the paper where we have moving and the fixed image and voxel morph output with cost function cross correlation, and at the in the last column we have voxel morph output with mean squared error cost function used in the training. And here we have some overlaid boundaries of few structures, for example ventricles in blue and dark green, and then we have thalami in red and pink, and hippocampi in light green and orange. Overall, as we can see, the results are quite good. I have an example where we have displacement field visualized here. So here we have moving, fixed, and the output moved. And here we have the displacement field visualized in RGB. And we can see this is performing good, as we can see the displacement field within the brain is kind of smooth within the brain. So overall, it's a good work. During Google Summer of Code, we had a student, Sarat Chandra, who worked with us to implement voxel morph in DiPi. And here we are showing some results from his work during the Google Summer of Code 2020. These are the results on T1 MRI images. The model was trained on 150 images. Here we have moving, and then we have static, and in the middle we have overlay of moving and static before the registration. And here in the last column we have the moved output, and before that this is the overlay of moved and static. So here we can see that the overlay has improved with the registration. Here is an example with T2 MRI registration, moving, static, moved, and the overlays before and after. We can see here that registration is improving the overlay. One interesting thing that we did during Google Summer of Code was to try voxel morph on multimodal MRI registration, T1 with T2. So here we have the moving, static, and their overlay before and overlay after, and this is the moved one. So this is not so promising. The results are not that great, but we did not have time to do much experiments or include more data, try different regularization, or change the network a bit. So this would be a future work. And I will stop now, and Shreyas will continue and talk about how voxel morph API looks like in DiPi and what are our future directions for this work.
All right. Thank you, Bramsh, for explaining the voxel morph framework. And as she mentioned, it was implemented by Sharath as a part of Google Summer of Code 2020. And here in this slide, I will be explaining how the voxel morph API looks in DiPi. As you can see, it is a part of the deep learning module, and it is within the NN framework. So from TypeI, you import NN, and from NN you import registration, and within that you will be able to find a model called voxel morph. Then for the metrics, we have three alternatives. One is the normalized cross correlation, the sum of squared differences, and the normalized mutual information. You may have seen from Serge's talk yesterday about standard image registration. These metrics are even used in the standard image registration that as Brahms contrasted before, as opposed to deep learning based registration. So for instance, one can create the cost function or the objective function object that is going to be used within the voxel morph framework. For instance, I've taken normalized correlation, cross correlation over here, but you could also have NMI or SSD, and it would be in the same fashion. Then you create the model. So you just call the voxel morph model, and you say model.compile, okay? And if you want to go in and change the model settings, it is possible to do that. You can also play around with the optimizer, and you can have the loss function passed to it. An important thing to say is that we have this implemented in TensorFlow. So when you hit model.compile, you should also have a verbose option where you can see the architecture and also plot out the graph if necessary. Then the train step is also simple. This is also a part of the API. We simply call model.fit. It wraps around the fit function of the TensorFlow fit predict API and is quite straightforward. You can set the validation split, and you can define your batch size, the number of epochs, and here. Next, you can evaluate it on a test set. It is a standard practice in deep learning or in general in machine learning to have a test and a validation split along with your training data. You can simply save and load weights if you are training on your own data set. That is that if you want to create a own registration, voxel morph registration model for your cohort, this is why we provide this capability of saving and loading these weights. And in the end, we just predict, right? And you can also do a batch-wise prediction. You can, if you want to predict all your data at once, if you have that kind of infrastructure, sure, you can go in and do that. Yeah, as you can see, the API is quite simple. We will be providing some pre-trained model. This is in process, and we are testing it out on different data sets. All right, before closing down today's presentations, I just sort of wanted to reinforce what Brahms presented before this and talk a little more about the guarantees of registration based on traditional methods versus registration based on deep learning. So in traditional registration, typically diffeomorphic registration, I'm talking about nonlinear registration here. So using algorithms like the SIN, LDMM, what we are trying to do is basically solve an optimization problem, which works via energy minimization. We are trying to learn this inverse map phi that is shown over here, where you basically try to make one image similar to the target image, and by optimizing over some parameters shown here by X, and then you have a regularization function, sorry, a regularization part of this function where you basically don't want the image to get too similar such that it becomes unrealistic. So you have to regularize for that, assuming that the deformations obtained from the registration algorithm are locally smooth. So let's say you have this image one, that is your moving image shown over here, and this is the static image which you want this image to be registered to. What you want to do is optimize for this phi inverse, that is the deformation map to get the moved image. While this is a very good one, diffeomorphic registration does provide certain guarantees, and like it is very well known, it might be slow in practice because it's like a pairwise approach. In contrast, deep learning based registration, what you're trying to do is basically you have this same image 1 and image 2, but you put them in a regression framework, and the regression framework is basically trying to learn the deformation map. So what are we really trying to predict is, just to be clear about what I'm saying, instead of solving this optimization problem over here, we have reconstructed it as a prediction problem. And by putting it in a predictive setting, we need a regression framework, right? And this regression framework does not necessarily have to be a neural network based one. Typically these days, convolutional neural networks give really good approximation, but you could replace that with is essentially any regression framework that works. And what is this regression framework predicting is basically local displacements. You could also try to predict velocity fields. So the local displacement is essentially vector fields, and you could also have, for example, momentum fields. I have not mentioned that over here. And while at training time, you can place certain guarantees on the objective function. You can always enforce certain theoretical guarantees, but at test time, unfortunately, you cannot force that. The advantage of doing this deep learning based registration is that it could basically avoid, it is a little conservative in nature, in the sense that you can avoid going drastically wrong, something that is completely biologically implausible, which could happen in a diffeomorphic registration case if the problem is not that constrained. For example, if the masks of both the images were poor, or let's say you were trying to, you had parcellated regions of the brain, right? And then if you were trying to register one to the other, the diffeomorphic registration would completely reach out for every possible combination, and you may not get something that's biologically feasible. But in the case of deep learning based, it is a little more conservative. It can avoid going too far away because it is based on a cohort, like a set of data that it has been trained on. But it also has a downside that you may not be able to register as well as the diffeomorphic registration if the model has, rather this regression framework has never seen that type of a deformation. So just to wrap this up, future directions, what we need to do before integrating this in DIPY is we want to provide a pre-trained model for different modalities such as T1, T2, DWI. We are testing this out daily, basically acquiring and gathering more data, training the model, testing it out. Then we are also stress testing for pathological data. Pathological data, for example, could be lesions, tumors, something of that sort. We haven't stress tested for that, and that is an essential aspect that we want to test for before deploying it. And lastly, we want to also be able to do the registration between modalities. Between different contrasts is a research question, but it is common, for example, to register the B0 to a T1 weighted image for diffusion analysis, let's say. And so it is kind of necessary to test it for that. Although the contrasts are more or less similar between a T0 and a B0 and a T1, we still need to do that. That's it from our side today. Thank you so much for listening to the presentation, and hope you have fun with the rest of the workshop. Thank you.